Welcome to the world of Dreamside Traveler. Here, beneath the soothing sound of gentle rain, we journey through time and space, uncovering the mysteries of the past and diving into the most captivating pages of human history. This place is created for those who love exploring the world in the quiet of evening, for those who value peace while yearning to discover something new before sleep. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please give this video a like. It helps other people find our stories. Help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers in our club of nighttime history lovers. And the Dreamside Traveler channel will become your faithful guide to sleep. We're constantly adding new stories for your peaceful evenings. And if you have ideas about which historical topics interest you, or simply want to share your thoughts, leave comments below the video. I'm genuinely curious to know what inspires you. Now close your eyes. Feel this gentle rain outside your window. Allow yourself to relax. Our journey begins right now. The year was 1847. In a modest red-bricked house in the quiet town of Milan, Ohio, a boy came into the world, a boy who would one day bring light to millions. His name was Thomas Alva Edison. To his parents, Samuel and Nancy, he was just little Al, their seventh and youngest child. But even then, life had plans for him far greater than anyone could imagine. From the very beginning, Edison's world was filled with questions. As a child, he was endlessly curious, constantly tinkering, taking things apart and asking why. This relentless curiosity, however, didn't sit well with his teachers. They called him slow, distracted, even incapable. But his mother, Nancy, saw through their words. She knew her son wasn't broken, he was simply built different. So she pulled him out of school and began teaching him at home. There, surrounded by books and experiments, young Thomas found his true classroom. Down in the basement of their home, a miniature laboratory took shape, full of jars, wires, and chemicals. His experiments didn't always go smoothly. Small fires and strange smells often crept up through the floorboards, but Nancy never stopped encouraging him. She gave him the freedom to explore, even if it meant replacing the occasional burned tablecloth. By the age of 12, Edison had taken his first job, selling newspapers and snacks aboard the Grand Trunk Railroad. But while other boys his age might have spent their earnings on candy, Al bought chemicals and test tubes. He even set up a lab inside the baggage car, conducting experiments between train stops, much to the alarm of the train crew. Then came a moment that would change his life forever. One day, Edison saw a child stumble onto the tracks directly in the path of a moving train. Without hesitation, he rushed in and pulled the boy to safety. The boy's father, a grateful station master, offered to teach Edison the telegraph system, the lifeblood of communication in that era. Edison, always eager to learn, dove headfirst into this new world of Morse code, wires, and tapping keys. Soon he was working as a professional telegraph operator, sending and receiving messages across the country. But even then, his heart belonged to invention. In his spare time, he sketched out ideas and built devices. By 1868, he had moved to Boston, where his first invention, an electric vote recorder, was born. It was clever, efficient, and a complete failure. Politicians didn't want fast results. They wanted time to debate, to delay, but Edison wasn't discouraged. The next year, he moved to New York City and invented the universal stock ticker, a machine that made Wall Street run smoother. That success gave him the financial freedom to create his own lab. And in 1876, in the town of Menlo Park, New Jersey, he built something entirely new for the time, an industrial research laboratory. It was a place where invention became systematic, a factory of ideas. It was there in Menlo Park that Edison took on one of the greatest challenges of his life, creating a reliable, long-lasting electric light bulb. The idea wasn't new, but no one had made it work well. Edison and his team tried material after material: paper, platinum, hair, even coconut fiber. Finally, they discovered that a filament made of carbonized bamboo could burn for over 1,200 hours. In 1879, he lit up a street with steady, reliable electric light, and the modern world began to glow. But Edison didn't stop there. He understood that a light bulb alone wasn't enough. People needed power. So he built the world's first commercial power station in New York City. For the first time, electricity flowed into homes and businesses, replacing flickering gas lamps with a steady electric hum. And then came the invention that would let the world not just see light, but hear sound. In 1877, Edison introduced the phonograph, a device that could record and play back sound. The first words it ever repeated, a nursery rhyme, "Mary had a little lamb." People were stunned. Some thought it was magic. It was, in a way, the magic of preserved voice, of music captured in time. Years later, he turned to moving pictures. His team created the kinetoscope, a box that let people watch short films through a peephole. It was primitive by today's standards, but revolutionary then. It was the spark that lit the future of cinema. Over his lifetime, Edison filed more than 1,000 patents. His lab was always buzzing with ideas, tools, laughter, arguments, and the sound of progress. He was never truly satisfied. There was always a new question, a new problem, a new invention waiting on the edge of thought. But even a man like Edison had rivals. The most famous was Nikola Tesla, a brilliant inventor and former employee. Edison supported direct current or DC electricity flowing one way. Tesla championed alternating current or AC, more efficient for long distances. The battle between them became known as the War of the Currents. Edison fought fiercely for DC, but in the end, AC won. Despite the rivalry, history would remember both men as giants who shaped our electrified world. As Edison grew older, his pace slowed but never stopped. He continued to invent, to experiment, to dream. When he passed away in 1931, the world dimmed its lights in his honor. Across America, electric lights were turned off for 1 full minute, a tribute to the man who had brought them to life. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine a world lit by candles and gas lamps, then slowly watch it brighten as Edison's dream becomes reality. Picture the spark, the glow, the first light in the darkness. That's the world he gave us. A world forever changed by one boy's curiosity. It was a stormy summer night in July of the year 1856. The wind howled through the narrow streets of a quiet village nestled in the rolling hills of the Austrian Empire, what we now call Croatia. Thunder rumbled like distant drums, and lightning painted the sky in blinding flashes. In the heart of this wild symphony of nature, a boy was born. The midwife, watching the storm unfold, whispered that this child would belong to the darkness. But his mother, Georgina Tesla, gently corrected her with a soft smile. No, he will be a child of light. That child was Nikola Tesla. From the very beginning, he was unlike anyone around him. His father, Milutin, was a Serbian Orthodox priest and a writer. His mother, though she had no formal education, was a born inventor, building simple mechanical devices to ease her daily chores. It was from her that Nikola inherited his spark of genius. As a boy, he built toys and tools from scraps, not just out of curiosity, but with purpose, precision, and playfulness. He had what we'd now call a photographic memory, able to recall entire pages of text, visualize machinery in motion, and solve complex equations entirely in his mind. His imagination was so vivid it sometimes blurred with reality. While others dreamed with their eyes closed, Tesla dreamed wide awake. At school in Karlovac, he stunned his teachers by solving advanced problems faster than anyone could write them down. Numbers, for him, were not just symbols. They were melodies, rhythms, languages of the universe. But it wasn't just numbers that fascinated him. What truly captivated Nikola was a force he believed connected all living things: electricity. Later, he studied at the Polytechnic Institute in Graz, where he first encountered the concept that would define his life's mission: alternating current. Unlike direct current, which flowed in a single direction, AC oscillated, making it more efficient over long distances. Tesla became obsessed. He saw not just its potential, but its destiny. Yet, the path ahead would be far from easy. After a series of personal tragedies, including the sudden death of his father, Tesla dropped out and wandered through Europe, working odd jobs and struggling to find his place. In Budapest, while recovering from illness and despair, he had a sudden vision. During a walk at sunset, the complete design for a rotating magnetic field appeared in his mind, clear, perfect, functional. That moment changed everything. He had solved one of the great puzzles of electrical engineering, not on paper, but entirely in thought. Driven by this revelation, Tesla set his sights on the new world. In 1884, with 4 cents in his pocket and dreams in his heart, he boarded a ship for America. His goal: to meet the most famous inventor alive, Thomas Edison. In New York, Tesla found work in Edison's chaotic and noisy laboratory. At first, Edison was intrigued by this tall, soft-spoken genius with a foreign accent and fierce eyes. Tesla improved Edison's DC machines, but when he introduced his AC concept, the mood shifted. Edison was deeply invested in direct current, and Tesla's vision threatened everything. What followed was more than a disagreement. It was a war. The war of currents. Edison launched a brutal campaign against AC, staging public demonstrations that shocked animals to prove it was dangerous. But Tesla found an ally in industrialist George Westinghouse, who believed in the power of alternating current and in Tesla's mind. Together, they built the first major AC power plant at Niagara Falls, turning the roaring water into a symbol of progress. In 1895, the switch was flipped, and electricity flowed across miles. Cities lit up. The future had arrived. With the victory of AC, Tesla became a sensation. Journalists called him the master of lightning. In his lab, he summoned arcs of electricity that leapt from coil to coil, lighting lamps without wires. He wasn't just demonstrating science. He was performing it, like a conductor commanding an orchestra of energy. But his vision stretched beyond power grids. Tesla dreamed of wireless communication. He imagined people speaking across continents without wires. He envisioned energy transmitted freely through the air, available to all regardless of wealth or location. He built the Tesla coil, an invention still used in radios, TVs, and science classes today. Then came his boldest project, the Wardenclyffe Tower. On the shores of Long Island, he began building a giant tower that he believed could beam electricity across the globe. No wires, no meters, just pure energy. But his investors, fearing they couldn't profit from free power, backed out. The tower was never completed. It stood for years as a rusting monument to what could have been. As time passed, Tesla withdrew from public life. He lived in hotels, fed pigeons in the park, and claimed to have made contact with beings from other planets. He spoke of death rays and interplanetary wireless. Some laughed, others worried, but through it all, his belief in the future never wavered. He died alone in a New York hotel room in 1943. The newspapers barely noticed. He had no money, no family, and no fame. But history did not forget. Today, his name is spoken with reverence. His ideas laid the foundation for radio, wireless communication, radar, and even modern robotics. His vision shapes the world we live in and the world we are still building. As you drift into sleep, picture the electric sky Tesla dreamed of. A world of light, movement, and invisible forces. A world where imagination powers reality. And remember, sometimes the loneliest minds give birth to the brightest futures. The year was 1847. In the quiet Scottish city of Edinburgh, a boy was born who would one day give voice to silence. His name was Alexander Graham Bell. He came into a world already shaped by sound. His grandfather had been a master of elocution. His father, Alexander Melville Bell, was a respected speech therapist who developed a system of visible speech to teach the deaf how to articulate sounds. And his mother, Eliza Grace Simmons, though nearly deaf herself, filled the household with warmth, wisdom, and a quiet determination that would leave a permanent mark on her young son. From an early age, Alexander was mesmerized by sound, not just the music of instruments or voices, but the mechanics behind it. He would watch his mother press her fingertips to a piano's wood, feeling the vibrations she could not hear. To him, this wasn't just adaptation, it was connection. A different kind of listening. But his childhood was shadowed by grief. 2 of his brothers died of tuberculosis. The losses struck deep. In the silence that followed, Bell clung to invention, not just as a distraction, but as a form of healing. By the age of 12, he had built a machine to remove husks from wheat. Not because anyone asked him to, but because the challenge whispered to his curious mind. In his 20s, the family moved to Canada, and soon after, Alexander found work in Boston, teaching speech to the deaf. His most famous student was Helen Keller, a child both deaf and blind, whom he would later guide toward language and self-expression. To Helen, Bell was not just a teacher. He was a bridge to the world. But there was something else, an idea taking shape in his mind, a way to transmit the human voice through wires. It began as an obsession. While others experimented with telegraphs and Morse code, Bell dreamed of something bolder, of hearing a voice at the other end of a line. In his small rented lab, he worked tirelessly alongside Thomas Watson, a skilled mechanic with nimble hands and a loyal heart. Day after day, they toiled with coils and membranes, metal discs and electric currents. And then on March 10th, 1876, it happened. Watson heard Bell's voice through the wire. "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." It wasn't poetry, but it was history. The first words ever transmitted by telephone. That one sentence would echo through centuries. But success didn't come easily. Bell had to defend his invention in court, in patents, in public demonstrations. Many claimed they had invented it first. He fought not just for credit, but for belief. Yet beyond the invention itself, Bell's passion remained rooted in helping others hear and speak. He continued to advocate for the deaf. He improved phonographic technologies. He helped launch the journal Science and became president of the National Geographic Society. And he never stopped dreaming. His later years were filled with wild ideas, flying machines, hydrofoils, breathing apparatuses. Some failed, some flew, but he didn't mind. For Bell, invention wasn't about perfection. It was about exploration. He believed that discovery was a journey, one paved not just with wires and metal, but with empathy. When Alexander Graham Bell died in 1922, telephone lines across North America fell silent for 1 full minute. A continent paused to honor the man who gave it voice. And tonight, as your eyes grow heavy, imagine a world without that voice. No late-night calls, no voices traveling across oceans, no distant laughter in your ear. Then imagine again the quiet figure in a dim laboratory, whispering into a machine no one believed in yet. "Come here," he said. "I want to see you." And the world heard him. It was a cold winter morning in the year 1706 when a child came into the world in a modest wooden home on Milk Street in Boston. His name was Benjamin Franklin. No one then could have imagined that this boy, the 15th of 17 children, would one day become one of the most influential minds in history. A printer, a scientist, a statesman, and a visionary. His father, Josiah Franklin, made candles and soap, and their family was far from wealthy. But what they lacked in wealth, young Benjamin made up for with an endless hunger for knowledge. Even as a boy, he devoured books, borrowing, trading, and reading everything he could get his hands on. Though his formal schooling lasted only 2 years, his real education never stopped. He was self-taught, shaped by pages, questions, and a relentless drive to understand the world. At 12, Benjamin became an apprentice to his older brother James, a printer. It was in that noisy print shop, surrounded by ink and type, that he found not just a trade, but a voice. His brother refused to publish his writing, so Franklin found a clever workaround. He invented a persona, a fictional woman named Silence Dogood, and slipped witty, insightful letters under the shop door. The essays were published and became wildly popular, though no one knew it was Benjamin behind them. When the truth came out, James was furious. The brothers' relationship soured, and soon Franklin made a bold decision. At just 17, he ran away from Boston. He arrived in Philadelphia, alone, hungry, and without a penny to his name. But the young runaway had something greater: determination. He found work in a print shop and quickly proved himself with his sharp thinking and tireless work ethic. He even spent time in London, learning more about his craft, before returning to Philadelphia to open his own printing business. Before long, Benjamin Franklin was not just a printer, he was a voice of the people. He founded the Pennsylvania Gazette, a newspaper that helped shape opinions in a time of colonial unrest. He published Poor Richard's Almanac, packed with clever sayings, weather predictions, and practical wisdom. Lines like "early to bed" and "early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise" became part of American culture. But Franklin's restless mind wasn't content with ink and paper. He was drawn to science, especially the mysterious force of electricity. In an era when lightning was feared and barely understood, Franklin wondered, could it be harnessed? He famously flew a kite during a thunderstorm, a dangerous experiment that confirmed lightning was electrical. That single act led to the invention of the lightning rod, saving lives and buildings for generations to come. And that was just the beginning. He invented bifocal glasses, the Franklin stove, and even an early version of the urinary catheter. He believed in improving life through reason and action, not just for himself, but for society. Franklin helped create America's first public library, its first volunteer fire department, and its first learned society for scientific discussion, the American Philosophical Society. As his reputation grew, so did his influence. He moved into politics, becoming a key voice for unity among the colonies. In 1754, he proposed the Albany Plan of Union, the first serious suggestion to unite the colonies under a single government. Though it was rejected, the idea would plant the seed for what would become the United States. By the time tensions with Britain boiled over, Franklin was already a respected elder among American leaders. In 1776, he was one of the committee members chosen to draft the Declaration of Independence. He didn't write most of it, but his edits helped sharpen its most powerful lines. Later, he was sent to France to seek support for the revolution. And there, with charm and intellect, he won over the French court. in 1778, thanks to his efforts, France signed a treaty of alliance with the United States, a move that would tip the war in America's favor. After the war, Franklin played a leading role in negotiating the Treaty of Paris, which officially ended the conflict and secured independence for the colonies. Even in his final years, Franklin remained a guiding force. In 1787, during the Constitutional Convention, his wisdom helped calm disagreements and shape what would become the U.S. Constitution. But perhaps most striking of all was his transformation near the end of his life. Once a slave owner, Franklin became an outspoken abolitionist, petitioning Congress to end slavery. It was a bold and unpopular stance, and a testament to his growth as a thinker and a human being. On April 17, 1790, at the age of 84, Benjamin Franklin died. His funeral drew thousands. Across the world, leaders mourned the passing of a man whose mind had lit up an age. He had once written his own epitaph, likening his body to a worn-out book, its cover torn, its pages faded. But he believed the work would appear again in a new edition, revised and corrected by the author. And so it has. Today, Franklin's legacy is everywhere. In libraries and post offices, in inventions and ideas, in the very spirit of American democracy. His life reminds us that wisdom does not come from wealth or privilege, but from curiosity, courage, and the will to make the world better. So tonight, as you drift into dreams, imagine a sky split by lightning and a kite dancing in the storm. Imagine a printer's hands stained with ink, setting words that would move a nation. And remember the man who believed that even a humble candle maker's son could illuminate the world. It was the year 1822, in the quiet town of Dole, nestled in the rolling hills of eastern France. There, in a modest stone house, a child was born who would one day challenge death itself, not with weapons, but with science. His name was Louis Pasteur. From the beginning, Louis was not like the other children. He was shy, thoughtful, a boy who studied the smallest details. While others played, he sketched the world around him, birds, stones, even shadows. His father, a humble tanner and veteran of Napoleon's army, believed in hard work and duty. His mother, patient and kind, nurtured his gentle spirit. School was difficult for Louis at first. He was not the fastest reader nor the boldest speaker, but what he lacked in speed he made up for in focus. He had a gift, the ability to observe what others missed. Teachers noticed this, and so did his family. His talent, quiet but sharp, began to bloom. By the time he entered college, Louis had discovered chemistry. He was captivated by the way substances transformed, how invisible forces shaped the visible world. He studied relentlessly. At the École Normale Supérieure in Paris, he earned his doctorate in science. And from that moment forward, he devoted his life to solving the mysteries of nature. But Louis Pasteur's journey was not one of smooth triumph. It was a battle against disease, against doubt, and often against those who said it couldn't be done. In the mid-19th century, sickness was everywhere. People died from infections, fevers, spoiled food. yet few understood why. Many still believed in something called spontaneous generation, the idea that life could simply arise from nothing, like flies from rotting meat. Pasteur didn't believe that. He believed there was something invisible, tiny living agents that were responsible. Germs, but the idea sounded like fantasy to most. So he proved it. He conducted a series of delicate experiments using swan-necked flasks, containers shaped in a way that allowed air to enter, but trapped particles and dust. He showed that when broth was protected from airborne microbes, it remained clear and clean. When exposed, it spoiled. Life, he demonstrated, did not arise from nowhere. It came from life. This idea, simple yet radical, became the foundation of microbiology. But Pasteur wasn't finished. In the 1860s, he turned his attention to a devastating problem: diseases in silkworms. The silk industry in France was collapsing, and thousands of families were losing their livelihoods. Pasteur, though unfamiliar with insects, took on the challenge. Through careful observation, dissection, and weeks of sleepless nights, he discovered the cause: a tiny parasite. His findings saved the silk industry, proving that science could not only explain nature, it could preserve livelihoods. Yet it was his work in medicine that would change history forever. In those days, surgery was dangerous. Mothers died giving birth. Soldiers died from infected wounds. Pasteur's research showed that germs were to blame, and that by keeping hands, tools, and wounds clean, lives could be saved. Doctors began using antiseptics. Hospitals changed their methods. Mortality rates fell. A new era had begun. Then came his greatest test, and perhaps his most courageous act. It was the year 1885. A young boy named Joseph Meister had been bitten by a rabid dog. At the time, rabies was a death sentence, a slow, agonizing descent into madness and death. There was no cure, no hope. But Pasteur had been working in secret on a vaccine, a way to train the body to fight the virus before it took hold. He had tested it on animals, but never on a human being. The decision was terrifying. If he was wrong, the boy would die, and so might Pasteur's reputation, even his freedom. But he looked into the child's eyes and chose to act. Over the following days, he administered a series of carefully timed injections and waited. The boy recovered. It was the birth of modern immunology. Word of Pasteur's success spread across the world. He went on to develop vaccines for anthrax and cholera, and laid the groundwork for many that would follow, from polio to measles and beyond. Despite his fame, Pasteur remained humble. He once said, "I am on the edge of mysteries, and the veil is getting thinner." He never forgot the weight of the questions he carried, or the lives behind the science. He believed in the power of knowledge, but also in kindness. His research was always guided by compassion, by a deep belief that science should serve humanity. Louis Pasteur died in 1895 at the age of 72. At his funeral, thousands gathered in silence. The boy he had saved, Joseph Meister, stood among them, now a man, alive because of Pasteur's courage. Today, his name lives on, not only in textbooks and laboratories, but in every vaccine, every bottle of pasteurized milk, every clean surgical room. His legacy is not made of monuments, but of lives quietly saved. So as you drift into sleep, remember the boy who looked into a microscope and saw a universe of invisible battles. Remember the man who dared to believe that nature's secrets could be unlocked, not for fame, but for healing. And remember that sometimes the smallest things, a drop of liquid, a thread of light, a choice made in the dark, can change the course of the world. On a crisp autumn day, the 19th of October in the year 1862, Auguste Lumière was born in the lively city of Lyon, France. This was a world yet untouched by the magic of moving pictures, a world where images were still frozen in time. Auguste was destined to change how humanity would see reality itself. The Lumière family was deeply rooted in invention and industry. Auguste's father, Antoine Lumière, was both a photographer and a savvy businessman, fascinated by the rising field of visual technology. From a very young age, Auguste and his younger brother Louis were surrounded by images and the art of capturing light, an early spark that would fuel their greatest creation. As the family moved to Lyon, Auguste attended La Martinière, a technical school that sharpened his skills in science and mechanics. He studied chemistry and physics, building a strong foundation for his future revolutionary work. Antoine Lumière had a sharp eye for the future and encouraged his sons to explore photography, which at the time was booming but still a static medium. Photographs could capture moments, but they could not move. Together, Auguste and Louis joined their father's photography business. There, they improved the dry photographic plates, making photography faster and more accessible. Their innovations earned them respect and financial stability, giving them the freedom to explore more daring experiments. Soon, their curiosity led them to a discovery that would change the world forever: cinema. In the late 1890s, motion was still an illusion that fascinated scientists and inventors. Edward Muybridge had revealed the secret of galloping horses through photographic studies, and Thomas Edison had created the kinetoscope, a device that let people watch short films through a tiny peephole. But these inventions were limited. Films could only be viewed by one person at a time, and could not be projected to an audience. Auguste and Louis Lumière imagined something different. They wanted to bring moving images to everyone. Through tireless experiments, the brothers developed the cinematograph, a remarkable machine that combined a camera, a film developer, and a projector in one. Unlike Edison's bulky kinetoscope, which only allowed single-person viewing, the cinematograph could project films onto a large screen for crowds to enjoy together. On December 28, 1895, at the Grand Café in Paris, the Lumière brothers held the first-ever public screening of motion pictures. The audience watched in amazement as simple scenes flickered to life. A factory's workers leaving for the day, a train arriving at the station, a baby being fed by its parents. These short films, though modest, marked the birth of modern cinema, forever changing the world. Following this historic debut, the Lumière brothers traveled throughout Europe, showcasing their invention. Crowds gathered, filled with wonder, unable to believe that what they saw was not magic, but science. Their films captured everyday moments, people strolling in parks, children playing, busy city streets. The realism of these images made audiences feel as if they were witnessing real life itself, frozen and shared through the magic of the screen. Despite their success, Auguste and Louis viewed cinema more as a novelty than a business. Auguste famously said that cinema was an invention without a future, thinking moving pictures were merely a curiosity. They chose not to pursue filmmaking as a major enterprise, leaving the future of cinema to others. Unlike Louis, who stayed somewhat involved with film technology, Auguste shifted his focus to medicine and scientific research. He dedicated much of his later life to applying photographic techniques to healthcare, especially in radiology. During the First World War, he helped advance medical imaging and improve X-ray technology, aiding battlefield surgeons. His contributions to medicine were as innovative as his earlier work in cinema, blending science and practical use. Though remembered as a pioneer of motion pictures, Auguste Lumière saw himself as more than just a filmmaker. He was a scientist, always searching for ways to use technology to better human lives. As the decades passed, cinema blossomed into a powerful art form and global industry. The first films of the Lumière brothers, once thought to be simple novelties, became treasured historical artifacts. Auguste lived to see the incredible impact of his work. Grand theaters, epic films, the silent era giving way to talkies. All of it traced back to that moment in Paris when he and his brother projected the very first moving images onto a screen. He passed away on April 10th, 1954, at the age of 91. By then, cinema had grown into a multi-billion-dollar industry, an art form capable of inspiring, educating, and entertaining millions across generations. The man who once believed moving pictures had no future unknowingly helped create the most enduring form of entertainment the world has ever seen. Today, in every cinema, on every television screen, and in every smartphone, the spirit of Auguste Lumière lives on the flicker of a film, the magic of a story told through light and motion, all tracing back to that Parisian café in 1895. So, as you close your eyes, imagine sitting in a dark theater, the hum of anticipation filling the air. The projector flickers to life, and suddenly the world begins to move. A train pulls into the station, people wave, and for a brief moment, time itself stands still, captured forever thanks to the vision of Auguste Lumière. On a fresh spring day, the 12th of April in the year 1841, a boy named Clément Ader was born in the quiet town of Muret, France. From a very young age, Clément was captivated by the dream of flying, an idea that seemed impossible in a world where men had only just begun to conquer the land and sea. The sky, vast and untouchable, called to him like a silent mystery. Clément's fascination was not with engines or machines alone, but with nature itself. He watched birds and bats glide silently through the air, studying their graceful wings and wondering how such creatures could conquer gravity's pull. At a time when steam engines powered railways across continents and machines transformed industry, the sky remained a place untouched by human feet. But Clément refused to accept that humans could never take flight. As a young man, he studied engineering at the prestigious École Centrale des Arts et Manufactures in Paris. There, his technical skills grew sharper, but his imagination soared far beyond textbooks and workshops. He dreamed of machines that could lift people into the air, machines that would imitate the beauty and precision of bird wings. Before diving fully into aviation, Clément made important contributions to telecommunications. He played a key role in bringing the telephone to France, and even improved upon Alexander Graham Bell's original design. Yet, while the world of sound intrigued him, it was the silent sky that truly captured his heart. Determined to unlock the secret of flight, Clément returned his focus to the mysteries of the air. Unlike many inventors who aimed to build fixed-wing machines, he believed that true flight required machines that could flap their wings just like birds and bats. He was convinced that nature held the blueprint for human aviation. By the 1880s, the idea of human flight was still dismissed by many as mere fantasy. But Clément pressed on, building a remarkable flying machine he called the avian, named after the Greek god of the winds. This machine looked like a giant bat, its curved wings covered in silk, powered by a steam engine at its heart. On the 9th of October, 1890, in a field just outside Paris, Clément climbed into his flying creation. He fired up the steam engine and the machine roared to life. The propeller spun, and for a brief moment, the avian lifted off the ground, though it flew only a few dozen meters before settling back to Earth. This was the first powered, heavier-than-air flight in history. Clément had achieved what no one had before him. He had left the Earth under his own power. However, the world was not yet ready to embrace this achievement. Undeterred, Clément refined his designs, building larger and more complex flying machines, including the Avian II and Avian III. These were supported by the French military, who saw the potential for machines that could serve in war and peace, dominating the skies. In 1897, Clément attempted a second flight with the Avian III, under the watchful eyes of military officials. The machine, with its twin propellers and bat-like wings, was an engineering marvel, but strong winds prevented it from achieving sustained flight. The military lost confidence and withdrew support, grounding Clément's dreams of aviation supremacy. Heartbroken and discouraged, Clément stepped away from the public eye. Though he continued his work as an engineer, he never built another flying machine. When the Wright brothers made their historic flight in the early 20th century, Clément's contributions were largely forgotten. Still, Clément remained convinced that flight would change the world. He wrote extensively about aviation, predicting with remarkable insight the rise of air forces and commercial airlines. He saw a future written across the skies, one that others could not yet imagine. As years passed, claimant witnessed aviation flourish. The world finally caught up to the vision he had dared to dream. Though his name was rarely spoken among the great pioneers, history would eventually remember him. The word avion, which he used to name his aircraft, became the French word for airplane, forever linking his legacy to the machines he once imagined. Today, when we look up at skies filled with airplanes, helicopters, and even spacecraft, we see the world Clément Ader envisioned long before others believed it possible. His flights were short, but his vision was boundless. So as you close your eyes and drift into sleep, picture a man standing in a quiet field, staring at the endless sky with wonder. He does not see empty space. He sees the future, a future where men no longer walk the earth, but soar on machines that hum like the wind and stretch their wings like birds. This was the dream Clément Ader held before anyone else dared to believe. On a warm summer day, the 17th of August, 1871, in a small house in Dayton, Ohio, a boy named Orville Wright was born. 4 years earlier, in 1867, his older brother Wilbur had arrived into the world. Together, these two brothers would grow up to change history, not by conquering land or sea, but by soaring into the skies. Their father, Bishop Milton Wright, was a man of ideas and books, always encouraging his children to explore and question the world around them. Their mother, Susan Catherine Wright, had a natural talent for fixing things, and it was from her that Wilbur and Orville inherited their love for building and tinkering. One simple toy sparked their dream of flight, a small rubber band-powered flying device their father brought home. They watched it glide through the air, defying gravity for a few magical seconds before gently landing back on the ground. In that moment, something inside them took flight. Unlike many great inventors, the Wright brothers did not have formal engineering degrees. Wilbur had once dreamed of attending Yale, but was forced to pause his studies due to an injury in his youth. Orville, restless and curious, dropped out of high school to start a printing business. Together, they became entrepreneurs, building their own printing press, running a newspaper, and later opening a bicycle repair and manufacturing shop in Dayton. Yet, their true passion remained flight. By the late 1800s, the world was fascinated by flying machines. German aviation pioneer Otto Lilienthal had been experimenting with gliders, proving that controlled flight was possible. But after Lilienthal's tragic death in 1896, the Wright brothers realized that many questions about flight remained unanswered. They decided to find those answers themselves. The Wrights approached flight as scientists, studying the principles of lift, drag, and control. They read everything they could find about aerodynamics and built their own wind tunnel, testing over 200 different wing shapes to discover the most efficient design. They understood something many inventors overlooked. Flying wasn't just about getting off the ground, it was about staying in control. Armed with knowledge and determination, the brothers built and tested gliders in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, a remote place known for steady winds and soft, sandy landing grounds. Their gliders improved with each test, But they knew they needed one more thing: a powered engine. After years of tireless work, in 1903, they built the Wright Flyer, a delicate but revolutionary airplane with a 12-horsepower engine. On a chilly December 17th at Kitty Hawk's sand dunes, the moment of truth arrived. Orville climbed aboard first. The engine sputtered to life, and the propellers began to whirl. Wilbur ran alongside, steadying the wings as the flyer lifted off the ground. Orville's flight lasted 12 seconds, covering 120 feet before landing safely. It was a short flight, but it was the first sustained, controlled, powered flight in history. Later that day, Wilbur took his turn, flying 852 feet in 59 seconds. The world had changed forever. One might think the Wright brothers would be instantly celebrated, but the world was slow to believe their achievement. Newspapers were skeptical, and many dismissed their claims as exaggerations. Undeterred, the brothers refined their designs, improving stability and control. In 1905, they built the Wright Flyer III, the first truly practical airplane, capable of flying for over 30 minutes at a time. In 1908, the world finally took notice. Wilbur traveled to France, demonstrating their airplane before amazed crowds. Meanwhile, Orville performed test flights for the U.S. Army, proving aviation's military potential. In just a few years, the Wright brothers went from obscure inventors to global celebrities. Though their success was undeniable, they faced many challenges. Rival inventors tried to patent their work or claim credit. Legal battles drained their time and energy. Then, tragedy struck. In 1908, during a test flight for the Army, Orville's plane crashed, severely injuring him and killing his passenger, Lieutenant Thomas Selfridge, the first person to die in an airplane accident. Orville recovered, but was haunted by the accident for the rest of his life. In 1912, Wilbur, the quieter leader, died of typhoid fever at the age of 45. Without his brother, Orville lost much of his drive for invention. He continued to improve aviation technology, but eventually retired from the industry. Orville lived long enough to see airplanes become faster, stronger, and used in both war and peace. Yet, he never stopped longing for those early days when he and Wilbur worked side by side, dreaming of the skies. Orville passed away in 1948, having witnessed the dawn of jet planes and commercial airlines, a future he and Wilbur had once only imagined. Today, the world moves by air, from commercial jets crossing oceans to spacecraft venturing beyond our planet. The dream that began in a small bicycle shop in Dayton shaped human civilization. The Wright brothers were not just inventors. They were dreamers who refused to accept that the sky was out of reach. They taught us that failure is part of progress, that patience and perseverance can change the world, and that the greatest revolutions often begin in the simplest places. So as you close your eyes and drift into dreams, imagine standing on the wind-swept dunes of Kitty Hawk on that historic morning. Picture a wooden machine, its delicate wings trembling as it lifts off the ground for the first time. Feel the rush of wind, hear the roar of the tiny engine, and watch as the dream of flight takes its first breath. Know that because two brothers dared to believe, the sky is no longer the limit. On a chilly December day in the year 1765, in the quiet town of Westborough, Massachusetts, a boy named Eli Whitney was born. From early childhood, Eli showed a special gift for understanding how things worked. While other children played outside, he spent hours in his father's workshop, taking tools apart and carefully putting them back together. He was always looking for ways to make them better and more efficient. By the time he was a teenager, Eli had already started his own small business making nails, supplying them to local merchants. His hands were skilled, but his mind was even sharper. A visionary who saw the world not just as it was, but as it could be. Though his talents were clear, Eli's family was not wealthy enough to send him to college right away. Determined, he worked as a school teacher to save money. In 1789, he entered Yale College, where he studied mathematics and engineering. It was at Yale that his mind truly flourished, soaking up ideas about mechanics, manufacturing, and industrial design. After graduating in 1792, Eli traveled south to Georgia for a tutoring job he had been promised. But fate had something different in store. There, he saw the hard work of cotton farmers who spent endless hours removing seeds from cotton fibers by hand. This slow, tiring task struck him deeply. He was inspired to find a better way. In 1793, Eli set to work inventing a machine to solve this problem. With his engineering skill, he created the cotton gin, a simple but revolutionary device. The machine used rotating wire teeth to pull cotton fibers through a mesh, separating the seeds quickly and efficiently. What had taken days of manual labor could now be done in minutes. This invention changed everything. Cotton production soared, transforming the Southern economy. Cotton became America's leading export, fueling the rise of textile mills and driving the Industrial Revolution forward. But success did not come easily. After patenting the cotton gin in 1794, Eli faced a tough fight. Many farmers and plantation owners copied his invention without paying royalties. Despite years of legal battles, Eli struggled to protect his patent. By the time he won in court, countless unauthorized copies were already made, and he earned little money from his groundbreaking creation. It was a harsh twist. The man who revolutionized cotton farming would not enjoy its financial rewards. Yet Eli Whitney did not give up. He turned his attention to a new challenge, manufacturing firearms. At that time, guns were made one by one, each piece hand-fitted, making repairs slow and production difficult. Eli had a bold idea: interchangeable parts. Identical, machine-made components that could be quickly mass-produced and assembled. In 1798, Eli won a government contract to supply 10,000 muskets to the U.S. military. To meet the demand, he built one of the first modern assembly lines. Machines produced precise parts that fit any musket of the same model. This was the birth of mass production, the foundation of modern manufacturing. Eli Whitney's system of interchangeable parts changed industry forever. It paved the way for mass production of everything from automobiles to household appliances. The principles he introduced would later be perfected by Henry Ford, shaping the industrial world we know today. His influence went far beyond his own time. Factories worldwide adopted his methods. Standardization and automation became the backbone of modern economies. Though Eli never became very wealthy, his contributions reshaped history. He died in 1825, but his legacy lives on in every factory, every machine, and every product built with precision engineering. Today, every assembly line hums with the spirit of Eli Whitney's vision, a dream not just of machines, but of efficiency, innovation, and the endless power of human creativity. So as you close your eyes and drift into sleep, imagine a young man in a dimly lit workshop, turning an idea into reality. Picture the first cotton gin coming to life, the first musket assembled in record time. Imagine a world shifting under the power of invention. Because one man dared to think differently, industry would never be the same. On a warm summer day in 1863, in a quiet farmhouse nestled in Dearborn, Michigan, a boy named Henry Ford was born. From the very first steps he took, Henry was fascinated by the world of machines. As a child, he spent countless hours carefully taking apart clocks, watches, and farm tools, eager to discover what made them tick and how they worked. His father dreamed that Henry would take over the family farm, but young Henry's heart beat for the hum and clank of engines, not the soil. At the age of 16, in 1879, Henry left home and moved to Detroit, a city booming with industry and opportunity. He found work as an apprentice machinist, soaking up every skill he could. He learned to build engines, fix machines, and imagine new possibilities that others had not yet seen. The world was still ruled by horses and carriages, but steam-powered vehicles and early gasoline engines were beginning to stir curiosity everywhere. Henry knew deep inside that the future of transportation lay in these new machines, and he was determined to be a part of it. By the 1890s, Henry was working as an engineer for the Edison Illuminating Company, catching the attention of Thomas Edison himself. Edison believed in Henry's ideas, encouraging him to push forward. Inspired, Henry began working on something truly revolutionary, a gasoline-powered automobile. After years of experimenting and refining, in 1896, Henry completed his first car, the quadricycle. This lightweight machine had 4 bicycle wheels and a small 2-cylinder engine. It wasn't just a vehicle, it was a radical idea. A car that could move without horses pulling it. The success of the quadricycle ignited Henry's ambition. He knew cars were the future, but the automobiles of his time were expensive, unreliable, and difficult to build. Henry dreamed of creating a car everyone could afford, a machine for the people. In 1903, he founded the Ford Motor Company, setting the stage for a revolution. 5 years later, in 1908, Ford unveiled the Model T, the car that would change everything. Unlike other cars before it, the Model T was priced so that the average American worker could buy it. It was tough and durable, able to handle rough roads without breaking down. It was so simple to operate that nearly anyone could learn to drive it. The Model T was an instant hit. Demand skyrocketed, and Henry faced a new problem: how to make enough cars fast enough to keep up. Henry's solution was genius. In 1913, he introduced the moving assembly line to car manufacturing. Instead of building one car at a time from start to finish, each worker focused on a single task, assembling the vehicle step by step as it moved along a conveyor belt. The result was astonishing. Production time dropped from 12 hours to just 90 minutes. Car prices fell even more, making them affordable to millions. At the same time, Henry raised workers' wages to $5 a day, double what was common, setting new standards for fair pay and better working conditions. By 1927, over 15 million Model Ts had rolled off Ford's assembly lines, putting the world on wheels. But Henry's ambitions didn't stop with cars. He expanded into aviation, industrial development, and even social experiments, such as the Fordlandia project in Brazil, a bold but failed attempt to build a self-sustaining industrial community. Henry was also a man of strong opinions. His stubbornness sometimes slowed progress, as he clung to the Model T long after other companies introduced more modern vehicles. It wasn't until his son Edsel convinced him that innovation was necessary that Ford launched the Model A in 1927. Though a brilliant businessman, Henry Ford's legacy is complicated. His writings included anti-Semitic views that have rightly marred his reputation. Yet, his impact on industry and manufacturing remains undeniable. As he grew older, he gradually handed over control of his company, though he stayed involved in major decisions. The death of his beloved son Edsel in 1943 was a devastating blow. By the mid-1940s, Henry's health was failing, and on April 7, 1947, he passed away at the age of 83. Henry Ford didn't just create a car, he created a whole industry. His innovations in mass production changed how everything was made, from electronics to medicine. Assembly line manufacturing became the global standard. Cities and highways grew up around the cars that became a daily part of life. His wage policies influenced labor rights worldwide. Today, the Ford Motor Company still thrives, carrying forward his legacy of innovation, efficiency, and progress. So, as you close your eyes and drift into dreams, imagine a world without cars. A world where travel was slow, distances felt vast, and people stayed close to their towns and villages. Now picture a factory buzzing with motion, as workers assemble a brand new car in record time. A machine rolls off the line, ready to take someone on an adventure, to connect families, and to reshape entire cities. Because one man dared to think bigger, the world moves. Garrett Morgan was born on a chilly spring day, the 4th of March, in the year 1877, in the small town of Claysville, Kentucky. Coming from humble beginnings, his life story would become a testament to how determination and creativity can change the world. His parents, once enslaved, had found freedom and worked hard to build a better future. His father, Sidney, toiled as a sharecropper, and his mother, Elizabeth, carried the proud heritage of both Native American and African roots. Despite the harsh realities of a divided society, Garrett was raised with strong values, perseverance, ingenuity, and a relentless work ethic. From a young age, Garrett was fascinated by how things worked. Though he attended school only until the 6th grade, his hunger for knowledge could not be contained. At just 14 years old, he left his home in search of greater opportunities, traveling to Cincinnati, Ohio. There, he worked as a handyman, a modest job that gave him the chance to tinker and explore the mechanics of machines. His curiosity grew, and in 1895, he moved to Cleveland, Ohio, a city buzzing with industry and innovation. In Cleveland, Garrett found work as a sewing machine repairman for a clothing manufacturer. It was in this job that his inventive spirit truly began to shine. He discovered ways to make sewing machines more efficient, improving needles and belts, which made them work better and last longer. Soon, he opened his own repair shop, which blossomed into a successful tailoring business. But Garrett was not content to simply fix things. He wanted to invent. One of his most life-changing inventions came in 1812, when he designed the safety hood and smoke protector. At the time, fires and industrial accidents were frequent, and firefighters often fell victim to thick smoke and toxic gases. Garrett's invention was revolutionary. A hood connected to a breathing tube with a filtration system that allowed the wearer to breathe clean air, even in the most dangerous, smoke-filled environments. This device was an early version of what we now call a gas mask. The true test of Garrett's invention came in 1816. An explosion in a tunnel beneath Lake Erie trapped several workers underground, surrounded by smoke and poison gas. Without hesitation, Garrett and his brother rushed to the site, donning their safety hoods. Braving the hazardous conditions, they rescued numerous men and retrieved the bodies of those who had not survived. The newspapers praised Garrett as a hero, but when people learned he was black, many hesitated to support his invention. Undeterred, Garrett cleverly marketed the safety hood under the name of a white business partner, ensuring it would be adopted widely. His invention soon became essential gear for firefighters, the military, and rescue workers around the world. In the early 20th century, as automobiles became common, the number of traffic accidents surged. Traffic lights at that time had only 2 signals: stop and go. This limited system led to frequent crashes, especially when drivers had little warning to react. Garrett saw the danger and invented a 3-position traffic signal that added a caution phase. This new signal gave drivers a warning to slow down before stopping, significantly reducing accidents. In 1923, Garrett patented his invention and later sold the rights to General Electric for $40,000, a large sum back then. His 3-position signal became a global standard, saving countless lives and shaping modern traffic safety. Garrett Morgan's success was not limited to invention alone. He was deeply committed to his community and civil rights. As one of the first black car owners in Cleveland, he used his success to uplift those around him. He founded the Cleveland Call, one of the city's earliest black newspapers, and became a leader in the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Garrett supported black-owned businesses and fought for racial equality in a time when segregation and discrimination were the norm. Even as he aged and his vision was impaired by glaucoma, Garrett never stopped working and inspiring others. He continued to develop ideas that improved daily life, from hair care products to mechanical devices. He passed away on July 27, 1963. Having witnessed his safety hood receive recognition from the United States government for its life-saving impact. Today, millions of people drive safely thanks to Garrett's traffic signal. Firefighters and soldiers breathe clean air thanks to his gas mask design. His tireless spirit of innovation and commitment to justice continues to inspire generations. Garrett Morgan's story reminds us that no matter where you come from, if you have vision and perseverance, you can change the world. As you close your eyes and drift into sleep, imagine a smoky tunnel filled with panic until a man appears, carrying an invention that saves lives. Picture a busy intersection once chaotic and dangerous, now orderly and safe, all because one man saw a need and dared to make a difference. Because Garrett Morgan believed in innovation, safety, and progress. The world is a better place today. Tim Berners-Lee was born on a bright June 8, 1955, in the lively city of London. His parents, Conway Berners-Lee and Mary Lee Woods, were both pioneers in the early world of computers, having worked on the famous Mark I, the very first commercially available computer. Growing up in a house filled with talks about numbers, algorithms, and tricky logic puzzles, young Tim developed a curious mind that saw the world not as separate pieces, but as connections waiting to be made. From his earliest days, Tim was fascinated by how machines worked. As a child, he would spend hours taking apart old electronics just to see what was inside. His schooling at Emanuel School in London deepened his love for math and physics, and when he went to the University of Oxford, his curiosity turned into skill. There, he built his first computer using nothing more than an old television set for a screen. This early invention showed his unique talent for seeing the future of technology. In 1980, Tim joined CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research in Switzerland. It was here that he first faced a major problem. Scientists and researchers were working on important projects, but their knowledge was trapped in different computer systems, making it hard to share ideas or work together. Tim imagined a way to connect all this scattered information. He dreamed of a system where documents could be linked and shared easily across computers. He called it Inquire, a simple first version of what would later become the World Wide Web. Though the world was not yet ready, Tim did not give up. He left CERN for a time, but kept thinking about how to make information open and connected for everyone. By 1989, when the internet was still a confusing and limited place, Tim returned to CERN with a clear vision. He wrote a proposal for a new way to share knowledge, a web of linked documents that anyone could access with ease. This was the birth of the World Wide Web. To bring his idea to life, Tim created 3 key technologies. First, HTML, the language that structures every web page. Then URI, later known as URL, which gives each website its address. And finally, HTTP, the rules that allow data to move between computers. By 1990, with help from his colleague Robert Caliao, Tim built the first web browser and the first website. On August 6, 1991, the very first web page went online, quietly opening the door to a future that would change everything. At first, few people understood how important the web would become. But as more scientists, researchers, and universities began to use it, the web grew fast. In 1993, the release of the first graphical web browser, Mosaic, made the web easy and fun to use. Suddenly, companies, governments, and regular people rushed to create websites, turning the internet from a secret tool for experts into a global stage for everyone. Unlike many inventors, Tim Berners-Lee never tried to own or profit from his creation. He refused to patent the web, believing it should belong to everyone. Instead, he worked hard to keep the web free and open, fighting to make sure no single company or government could control it. In 1994, he founded the World Wide Web Consortium, known as W3C, to keep web standards open and ensure the web stays a tool for knowledge, connection, and progress. But with growth came new problems. Large companies and governments began to shape the web in ways that threatened its freedom. Advertising, fake news, and privacy violations became serious challenges. Tim spoke out strongly for net neutrality, digital rights, and privacy protections. He launched the Solid Project, a new effort to give people control over their personal data, hoping to keep the web a force for good. Despite these challenges, Tim remains hopeful. He believes the web can educate, connect, and inspire people worldwide. Today, nearly 5 billion people use the web every day. It has become a marketplace, a library, a social network, a teacher, and a stage. From every Google search to every Wikipedia article, from emails sent across the world to video calls with loved ones, his invention touches our lives in countless ways. In 2017, Tim was honored with the Turing Award, the highest prize in computer science. But for him, the greatest reward is knowing that his creation has connected people across the globe, making knowledge free and accessible to all. As you close your eyes and drift into sleep, imagine a world without the web, a world where information is locked away, where people remain apart and ideas cannot travel. Then picture Tim Berners-Lee sitting quietly at his desk, typing out the first web page, opening a door to a future woven together by connections. A single idea, a simple vision, forever shaping how we learn, communicate, and dream. Steve Jobs was born on a chilly February 24th in the year 1955 in the lively city of San Francisco. From the very start, his life was anything but ordinary. Though he never knew his biological parents well, he was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs, a hardworking couple who raised him in the calm town of Mountain View, California. Even as a child, Steve was unlike others. He didn't just accept rules, he questioned them, always searching for something beyond the obvious. His father, a skilled machinist, introduced him to the fascinating world of electronics, teaching him how to take things apart and put them back together. But Steve's mind was always racing ahead, dreaming of what could be, not just what was. In high school, Steve met a kindred spirit, a brilliant young engineer named Steve Wozniak. Their friendship sparked over shared passions, electronics, playful pranks, and big dreams about the future. Together, they created and sold blue boxes, devices that cleverly hacked telephone systems to make free long-distance calls. Though illegal, this daring experiment ignited in Steve a powerful belief. Technology could change the world. After high school, Steve briefly attended Reed College but dropped out after only 6 months. Formal education wasn't for him. He wanted to learn on his own terms. He explored calligraphy classes, immersed himself in Buddhism, and traveled to India seeking deeper meaning. These experiences shaped his unique vision, blending artistry and spirituality with technology. When he returned, he reunited with Wozniak, who was building a personal computer. To Steve, this wasn't just a machine made of circuits and chips. It was a chance to revolutionize how people interacted with technology. In 1976, they launched Apple Computer from the humble garage of Steve's parents. Their first creation, the Apple I, was a simple circuit board, but the seed of a massive revolution. Fueled by Steve's relentless drive and Wozniak's engineering genius, Apple released the Apple II, a groundbreaking personal computer designed not for experts, but for everyday people. Unlike the bulky, confusing machines of the time, the Apple II was elegant, simple to use, and powerful. Apple's rise was swift, and by 1980, it became a publicly traded company, making Steve a millionaire before his 25th birthday. Yet, success wasn't enough. Steve wanted to build something truly revolutionary. The Macintosh, launched in 1984, was his masterpiece, a computer that was not only functional but beautiful. With its sleek design and intuitive graphical interface, it replaced complicated command lines with icons and windows. It was a glimpse of the future. But behind this triumph, tensions grew. Steve's perfectionism and fierce demands sparked clashes inside Apple. In 1985, at just 30 years old, he was forced out of the company he helped create. It was a crushing fall from grace. But Steve Jobs was far from finished. After leaving Apple, he founded a new company called NeXT, focusing on advanced computers for education and business. Although NeXT faced financial struggles, Steve's vision remained clear. Simultaneously, he purchased a small animation studio named Pixar. Betting everything, he backed the creation of Toy Story, the world's first fully computer-animated feature film. When it premiered in 1995, it changed cinema forever. Pixar's success marked Steve's triumphant return to the tech world. Apple, meanwhile, was in trouble. On the verge of collapse, the company acquired NeXT in 1997, bringing Steve Jobs back home. Within a few years, he transformed Apple, streamlining its chaotic product lineup. He introduced the vibrant, all-in-one iMac, reigniting excitement in the tech world and winning back the hearts of consumers. But Steve's vision extended far beyond computers. In 2001, Apple launched the iPod, a sleek device capable of holding 1,000 songs in your pocket, changing forever how people listen to music. The iTunes Store followed, revolutionizing digital music sales. Then came the moment that reshaped modern life, the iPhone in 2007. When Steve stepped onto the stage to unveil it, the world gasped. This was no ordinary phone. It was a powerful computer, a camera, a music player, and a gateway to the internet, all in one compact device. Suddenly, the way people connected, worked, and played transformed. In the years that followed, Apple continued to innovate, launching the App Store, the iPad, and becoming the most valuable company in the world. Yet, behind the scenes, Steve was fighting a personal battle. Diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2004, he continued to push boundaries, refusing to slow down. His health waned, but his spirit remained unbroken. On October 5, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away at the age of 56. The world mourned deeply. Apple stores became shrines, tributes poured in from presidents, artists, and millions whose lives had been touched by his vision. Steve once said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." He proved it. From the Macintosh to the iPhone, his dream reshaped our world. He saw technology not as cold machines, but as tools to empower, inspire creativity, and improve life. Today, every time you swipe a screen, listen to music on your phone, or open a sleek laptop, you are touching a part of Steve Jobs' legacy. So, as you close your eyes and drift into sleep, imagine a world where computers were dull, phones were only for calls, and music was trapped in physical form. Then picture a young man in a black turtleneck stepping onto a stage and unveiling the future. Because one man dared to think differently, the world changed forever. John Logie Baird was born on a chilly, windy day in August 1888 in the quiet seaside town of Helensburgh, Scotland. From the very start, John was different. Fragile and often sick as a child, his body was weak, but his mind was restless and full of wonder. While other boys ran outside to play, John was fascinated by the invisible forces around him: electricity, machines, and the mysteries of invention. Even as a boy, he showed signs of brilliance, creating a primitive telephone line between his home and a neighbor's house, a small glimpse of the extraordinary mind that lay ahead. John's school years were nothing remarkable. He wasn't a prodigy by the usual standards, but he never stopped thinking, always curious and driven by a hunger to understand. He went to the Royal Technical College in Glasgow and later the University of Glasgow to study engineering. But his studies were cut short by the outbreak of the First World War. Although his health kept him from serving in the military, the war slowed his scientific work. Yet his spirit remained unbroken. After the war, John tried many paths, some successes, some failures. He invented rust-proof glass, tried to build a machine for making diamonds, and even designed socks that wouldn't wear out. None of these brought fame, but he was never discouraged. His heart belonged to a bigger dream, the dream of television. At the turn of the 20th century, radio was already changing how people communicated, but John believed there was something more powerful, a way to send moving pictures through the air, just like radio sent sound. Many called this idea fantasy, but John was determined to make it real. In the early 1920s, he moved to London and set up a tiny lab in a cramped attic. His tools were simple, old bicycle parts, cardboard, discarded radio tubes, and a wooden tea chest. But with these humble things, his imagination soared. Years of hard work finally paid off on October 2nd, 1925, when John transmitted the first ever live television image, a flickering, shadowy face of a ventriloquist's dummy. It was blurry and faint, but it was real. The dream of television had started. Encouraged by this success, John arranged a public demonstration on January 26, 1926, in a dim room in Soho, London. A small group, including members of the Royal Institution, watched in awe as John switched on his machine. For the first time, a live human face appeared on the screen, his assistant's face moving and alive. The room filled with gasps and whispers. The age of television was born. John's system used mechanical scanning with spinning discs to capture and show images. It was rough and simple, but it worked. The BBC took notice, and experimental broadcasts began. John became a pioneer, the face of a new industry. But the story was far from over. While John championed mechanical television, other inventors developed electronic television, systems using cathode ray tubes that were faster, clearer, and more reliable. Inventors like Philo Farnsworth and Vladimir Zworykin led this charge. John fought hard, showing off his innovations like early color TV in 1928 and even basic 3D television ideas. But the tide was turning. By the late 1930s, electronic television won the battle. John's mechanical system was slowly phased out, and he was pushed aside from the industry he had helped create. Yet, even facing defeat, John's dreams never faded. During World War II, TV development stopped, but John kept working. In 1944, he demonstrated the world's first fully electronic color television system, once again proving he was far ahead of his time. His health, however, was failing. Years of tireless effort had taken a toll, and on June 14, 1946, John Logie Baird passed away at 57 years old. Though mechanical television disappeared, John's pioneering spirit laid the foundation for the modern TV industry. Today, billions of people worldwide turn on their screens daily, watching news, movies, sports, and entertainment. all thanks to a man who never stopped believing in the impossible. From blurry black and white images to sharp, colorful high-definition broadcasts. From small attic labs to giant global networks, television has become one of the greatest inventions of the modern world. And it all began with the flickering, ghostly face of a ventriloquist's dummy in a tiny London attic. So, as you close your eyes and drift off to sleep, imagine a time before television, when stories were only heard but never seen. Picture a man sitting alone in a dim room adjusting wires and dials, watching as a blurry face appears on a tiny screen for the very first time. It was imperfect, it was fragile, but it was history in the making. And today, as millions of screens light up across the globe, the dream of John Logie Baird lives on. Samuel Morse was born on a chilly spring day, April 27, 1791, in the small town of Charlestown, Massachusetts. From the very beginning, he was destined to reshape how people across the world would connect. Samuel Finley Breese Morse's story is often told as the tale of the telegraph's inventor. But his journey started with a very different passion. As a boy, Morse was deeply drawn to both art and science. His father, Jedediah Morse, a respected geographer and clergyman, filled young Samuel's world with a love for knowledge and curiosity. But it was painting that truly captured his heart. Little did anyone know that the hands that once held brushes and palettes would one day send messages across continents with lightning speed. Samuel studied at Yale College, where he explored philosophy, mathematics, and electricity. But painting remained his true calling. After graduation, he traveled to England, immersing himself in the world of great masters, perfecting his craft, and dreaming of becoming one of America's most celebrated artists. For years, he painted grand portraits, dramatic landscapes, and historic scenes, earning admiration. Yet he struggled to find lasting success. Then, in 1825, life dealt him a harsh blow. While working on a portrait in Washington, D.C., he received a heartbreaking letter. His wife had fallen gravely ill and passed away. Rushing home to New Haven, he arrived too late to say goodbye. That painful moment marked a turning point. Morse began to wonder, what if messages could travel instantly instead of taking days or weeks? What if people could connect across vast distances in mere seconds? This question sparked a fierce new obsession. Inspired by emerging experiments in electromagnetism in Europe, Morse became convinced that electric signals could carry messages across great distances. Together with Leonard Gale, a scientist, and Alfred Vail, a skilled mechanic, he developed the first practical electromagnetic telegraph. Instead of voices or handwritten letters, it sent messages using a system of dots and dashes, a coded language now known as Morse code. After years of trial and error, Morse was ready to prove his invention to the world. On May 24th, 1844, in a packed room filled with politicians and scientists, he sent the first official message from Washington, D.C., to Baltimore. The words he tapped out were simple yet profound. "What hath God wrought?" When the response came back, astonishment filled the room. the world had changed forever. Telegraph lines quickly spread across America, connecting cities, businesses, and newspapers. Information that once took weeks to deliver now traveled in seconds. Governments and industries embraced this new technology, and soon, cables stretched beneath oceans, creating the first transatlantic connection. The vast world suddenly felt smaller, brought closer by the power of Morse's invention. But success did not come without struggle. Rival inventors tried to steal credit, and long legal battles over patents drained Morse's energy. Still, in 1858, his achievements were finally recognized with a government award of $8,000, a fortune in those days. Honors followed worldwide, and Morse became a celebrated figure. Despite his fame, Morse remained humble, viewing himself not as a businessman, but as a man who had simply helped humanity communicate. In his later years, he championed science and education, supporting universities, artists, and inventors. On April 2nd, 1872, at the age of 80, Samuel Morse passed away in New York. Thousands attended his funeral, and tributes poured in from across the globe. Yet his legacy was only beginning. The telegraph laid the foundation for modern communication. From the telephone to the internet, every major leap owes a debt to Morse's pioneering work. Though the telegraph itself has faded into history, its principles live on in every text message, every email, every satellite transmission. The world today is more connected than ever because one man dared to dream of faster communication. In every beep and pause of Morse code, his spirit echoes across time and space. As you close your eyes and drift into sleep, imagine a world where news traveled at the speed of horses, where messages took weeks to arrive. Now picture a man hunched over a wooden telegraph machine, tapping out a message. A pause, a response. Suddenly, the world connects, forever changed because Samuel Morse believed in the impossible. Samuel Colt was born on a warm summer day, July 19, 1814, in the lively city of Hartford, Connecticut. From the moment he could hold a tool, Samuel was captivated by the art of invention. As a child, he was deeply fascinated by machinery, chemistry, and above all, firearms. While other boys played outside, Samuel spent countless hours taking guns apart, eager to understand every tiny piece inside. In his young mind, a dream took shape, a gun that could fire multiple shots without needing to reload after each one. Little did anyone know, this boy's dream would one day reshape warfare and American history forever. At just 16 years old, Samuel was sent off to sea aboard a ship called the Corvo. This voyage would prove to be a turning point in his life. While steering the ship, he noticed how the ship's wheel could rotate smoothly and lock into place using a clever ratchet mechanism. This simple observation sparked an idea that burned in his mind. What if a firearm could use a similar rotating cylinder to fire several bullets one after another? When Samuel returned home, he was determined to make this vision real. By the year 1836, at the age of just 22, Samuel Colt patented the first practical revolver. a pistol capable of firing 6 shots before needing to reload. This remarkable invention, called the Colt Patterson after the town where it was first made, was the start of something groundbreaking. Though early sales were slow and his first business struggled, Colt did not give up. He worked tirelessly to improve his revolver, making it more reliable and easier to use. His persistence soon paid off as wars on the horizon demanded better weapons. The Texas Rangers were among the first to see the power of Colt's revolver in action. Facing tough battles against Native American warriors and outlaws, they relied on the ability to fire multiple shots quickly without reloading, a huge advantage on the rugged frontier. As word spread, demand for Colt's revolvers soared. The Mexican-American War, which lasted from 1846 to 1848, further proved the importance of his invention. The U.S. government placed large orders, saving Colt's company from failure. To meet this growing demand, Colt built an advanced firearms factory in Hartford, Connecticut. Here, he revolutionized manufacturing by pioneering mass production techniques. He introduced the assembly line and, crucially, made sure every part of his revolvers was interchangeable. This meant that broken parts could be replaced easily, making repairs simple and lowering costs. Colt's factory was one of the most modern of its time, filled with precision machines and strict quality control. His approach not only transformed gunmaking, but also influenced industrial manufacturing for generations. By the 1850s, Colt's firearms were in the hands of soldiers, lawmen, and pioneers all across America and even beyond. When the United States plunged into civil war, Colt's revolvers found their way to both the Union and Confederate armies. Though Colt supported the Union, his business was vast, selling weapons internationally and putting profit above politics. Thousands of revolvers rolled out of his factory, cementing his place as a giant in the firearms industry. But the relentless work and ambition took a toll on Samuel Colt's health. At just 47 years old on January 10, 1862, he passed away. Yet his story did not end there. His wife, Elizabeth Colt, stepped up to lead the company, ensuring its survival and growth. Under her guidance, Colt's firearms remained a powerful force in the industry for decades. Colt's legacy stretches far beyond guns. His innovations in mass production, marketing, and industrial efficiency shaped not just firearm manufacturing, but modern industry as a whole. The Colt Peacemaker revolver became a symbol of American ingenuity and the wild frontier, carried by cowboys, sheriffs, and outlaws alike. Even today, Colt's revolvers stand as icons of power and history. As you close your eyes and drift to sleep, imagine standing in the dusty streets of the Old West, hearing the sharp click of a revolver's cylinder spinning and locking into place. Picture the hum of Colt's factory in Hartford, where steel and machines brought to life tools that would shape a nation. Because Samuel Colt dared to dream, the world of warfare and industry was never the same again.